Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there, feeling well, and having a great ending to your Tuesday, a great evening out there. Got you a big update on what's going on with the weather over the next 3 days, really the rest of our work week all the way through Friday. I'm expecting each and every day all the way through Saturday to be very active in regards to severe weather and a winter storm that will also get going across portions of the country probably Thursday into Friday. And I'm talking about you, Chicago. You're right on the fringe for maybe your most substantial winter weather event of the winter, and it might come in March, early March. So we'll talk about what that means for you folks and all the areas surrounding that. But a big chunk of this video is going to be talking about the severe weather coming up. Tomorrow is going to be an event on its own. It's going to be kind of a pre-event to, like, an appetizer, if you will, to the big show, which will be Thursday. And then even Friday will be a significant day too. But tomorrow has uptrended for portions of Arkansas, Louisiana, the Delta regions, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to break down everything for you folks. We're going to get time stamped out. Sorry, I'm coming at you a little bit late. Soccer practice. I'm a soccer coach, if you guys didn't know, to some younger kids, 7, 8-year-olds, and they certainly wore me out tonight. But it was one of the best practices of the season, and I certainly appreciate all the prayers. You know, a couple weeks ago, I was a little anxious about it, and certainly I've just gotten right into the groove of things, so I really appreciate the support there. But regardless, if I seem a little tired, that's why. But we're here to pump out some good information for you regardless. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Hit a major milestone overnight last night. Hit 40K subscribers. Thank y'all. Thank each and every one of you folks for the amazing support. It really means the world. It really does. And, you know, just thank y'all. Thank y'all for giving me a platform to talk about what I love, which is the weather. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, you guys know the deal. Put it in the comments below, and I'll pray over it, and I promise you others will do the same. Water vapor loop. Let's get going here. Here's our system. It's already out west. It's hard to tell on your screen because it's over these higher elevations, and certainly once it gets into flatter regions, more just flat areas, plains, and the southern plains, you'll see it a lot better. But all these whiter colors out here, that's higher water content in the atmosphere from this storm that's digging into the western U.S. But there's also a flow aloft moving into areas of the Mid-South, Deep South, Mississippi Valley. And you can see it surging up, and there's a lot of moisture that will increase starting tomorrow. And speaking of moisture, these are dew points right now. You notice you got dew points in the 40s, 30s, basically from areas of kind of the central sections of the Deep South, you know, northern Louisiana through Mississippi, Alabama, North Georgia, and the Carolinas. Points north have crisp kind of spring, fall type air. There's certainly no humidity in the air, but there is a stout cutoff. And this moisture, you see these dew points in the 60s, even 70s along the Gulf Coast. This is going to rise northward, further north, deeper north into Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, even Arkansas, all the way up to southern portions of Tennessee over the next 24 hours. This is a huge area of moist air that is going to make the atmosphere ripe for severe weather. That's one of the ingredients. We call it thermodynamics. And the kinematics are going to be, you know, it's hard to use the word maxed out or the words maxed out, but they are going to be highly elevated for sure. So let's talk about tomorrow first. For you folks not getting affected by tomorrow, you know, feel free to skip ahead, but a lot of people who are getting affected by the severe weather tomorrow are going to get affected by the severe weather for Thursday. But there is a slight risk for tomorrow. And guys, I would not be surprised one bit by the time you could get to the wee hours of the morning tonight, which they always do an update around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, that there's a very small section that gets upgraded to a enhanced risk. I wouldn't be surprised one bit. Right now, we have the slight risk, which extends to northeast areas of, don't want to say Tennessee, northeast areas of Texas, all the way up into southern sections just south of Nashville. And all these areas in between. This includes Little Rock, Greenville, Mississippi, Memphis, Tennessee's in this, and yeah, the entire southern portion of Arkansas. Tornado risk with this, and it does this every time, and I have to go back up here and click it. Tornado risk with this, a 5% risk with the highest threat level of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. I'm telling you guys, these are going to be spinning tomorrow. We will have some reports of tornadoes in this brown area tomorrow, and I would not be surprised if a very small section of a 10% risk gets issued sometime tomorrow morning into tomorrow late morning. We'll see what happens. Damaging wind threat, there will be one with this. Let's go back down. 10% risk to see winds pushing 50 knots or higher within 25 miles at any given point in this 15% risk area. That's 55 to 60 miles per hour. But honestly, the biggest threat tomorrow, there's going to be, the parameters are going to support large hail. Not only do you have a 15% risk in the slight region of seeing hail pushing 1 inch or diameter or larger, but you also have a hatched region. This includes Little Rock, and right on the fringe of Memphis and everybody in between in this region, you see this black outlined area with these dashes into it. That is also a 10% risk. It's what we call a hatch risk, to see hail pushing 2 inch in diameter or larger. So there is going to be an elevated risk for large hail tomorrow in these portions of the country. This is just for tomorrow, guys. Okay, so be aware of tomorrow. Do not let tomorrow catch you off guard, because it is going to be a severe weather event. Is tomorrow going to be an outbreak? I don't think. But we'll take a look at the latest long-range date strip oil model, and it stinks because the OOZ is coming out right now, but it's not quite in range, and I wasn't going to wait any longer just for another model to come out. But this is potentially how the storm mode could unfold tomorrow. We're getting into about lunchtime, 1 p.m. Storms are developing here in northeast Texas, southeast Oklahoma, some showers and just elevated activity moving into Arkansas. And here it is. We'll stop this right here. And you have a pretty nasty cell showing up here in these mountainous regions right here in western Arkansas. Not going to try to pronounce the names of it. I had it memorized back when we were talking about the snowstorm back in January, but I've totally forgot. So I know there's some mountains outside the Ozarks up here right into here. But regardless, these cells can get going about 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, 2 to 3 p.m. And then look, and knocking on the doorstep of Little Rock around 3, 4 p.m. And, you know, you see the pink colors in here. There is going to be some hail in these storms tomorrow. You know, you're not seeing much in the way of activity based off the H-R model in these areas. But look at these storms firing up in southeast Missouri, southern Illinois, southern Indiana also. Would not be surprised if the slight risk is extended a little bit further north. We'll see what these next runs show. But if you look at this, it looks like almost like a dominant storm showing up on the H-R model. One dominant storm that might go right through the entire state. Well, not the entire state, but right through the central portions of Arkansas. And this is knocking on the door of Memphis and the Mississippi Valley and the Delta regions. And just right around Memphis, you know, just south of Memphis, Oxford, you know, there's some nasty cells showing up here from the H-R model around 7 p.m. These could be producing large hail. This is where you have your hatch region right into here. And then you got more storms developing back to the west. And, you know, these could be going throughout the night. And then, you know, like I said, the atmosphere just remains. So you could have some strong storms that continue throughout the overnight, throughout the late evening hours tomorrow night. More storms, you know, in northeast Arkansas, moving into western Tennessee, still some storms down northern Mississippi, and these continue. And I think there'll be a line of showers and storms that, you know, make its way through Tennessee also. In fact, we'll go down to Kentucky and Tennessee, and let's hopefully we didn't lose well, we didn't. We're good. But, I mean, look at these showers and storms, you know, in the wee hours of the morning, Thursday morning in Tennessee. It could be quite rainy for these areas. And storms lashing through the southern Appalachian Mountains in the wee hours of the morning, Thursday morning. So quite rainy in these areas. It'll be making some ruckus. Some damaging winds are possible late tomorrow night, even waking up into Thursday morning. So here comes our big system. All right, here it is. This is around tomorrow, midday. Here comes our energy. This is 500 millibar vortices right here. This is our piece of energy digging down our upper trough, our upper low. It digs down. We're getting into midday Thursday. It begins to take on more of that neutral tilt, and then it becomes to bend and gets more of that negative tilt sometime Thursday night and a Friday morning. And you see how it's bowing out like this a little bit. This is a sign of a strengthening storm system. So a low pressure that is dropping in millibars. You know, when these low pressures drop in millibars, it's kind of like hurricanes. They're strengthening. And as storms strengthen, they gain latitude, meaning they want to get more north. And as soon as that happens, they begin to cut. And that's exactly what happens. This begins to cut across Arkansas Friday morning. You know, the day before, bringing all kinds of severe weather down here. And then it begins to cut across the Ohio Valley. Stop it right here. This is bringing dangerous dynamics and ingredients for severe weather for the southeast. Always just south and southwest in southeast of these low pressures, this is ripping up a lot of low-level moisture and a lot of dynamics for severe weather. And there's going to be a winter storm somewhere up here in the Midwest, upper Midwest, Great Lakes region. And also this is going to be a transfer of a low pressure off the coast or along the coastline of southern New England, where there's going to be a significant winter storm again as we're getting into the end of the work week, as we're getting into Friday into Saturday. So Thursday, massive enhanced risk. By the time some of you folks watch this, maybe tomorrow morning, there will be a moderate risk. I think on the next outlook, probably around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning tonight, there will be another update, guys, and there will be probably a section that will have a moderate risk somewhere in here probably. But right now, an enhanced risk, and not just an enhanced risk, but you also have, which is a level 3 out of 5, you also have a hatch risk. And this hatch, that is, first off, the red is a 30% chance to see severe weather within 25 miles at any given point. The hatch region, the black outlined area, that is also a 10% risk to see significant severe weather, whether that's an EF2 tornado, whether that's hail pushing 2-inch diameter or larger, or whether that's winds pushing 65 knots or higher, which is around 70 to 75 miles per hour. There's a 10% risk of that also. Not added to the 30% chance to make 40, but it's its own risk, if that makes any sense. So let's talk about the dynamics of Thursday. So we'll start off Thursday morning. We'll look at the NAM 3KM, first short-range model, kind of in view here. Low pressure's right here. It's starting to eject across the southern plains. You already have a low-level jet in these regions pushing 40, maybe 45 knots. Okay, but look as you're getting into about midday right here. Look at this low-level jet ramping up for eastern Texas, northern Louisiana, and southern Arkansas. At the same time, and we'll talk about this in a second, you have a ton of low-level, rich, deep Gulf moisture building into this sector right here. And we're getting at this point into about, this is probably sometime around 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Thursday evening. This low-level jet is pushing 55, maybe 60 knots in these sections right here in this brownish areas in Louisiana, sections of Arkansas. So the wind profile kinematics is supportive for significant severe weather, for the spinning in the atmosphere, the directional, the speed, shear, and you're mixing that, right? And you keep this going. And as this low pressure right here deepens, the low-level jet does nothing but increase. So you see these wider colors right in here that really get going around, probably around midnight, Thursday night. That is a low-level jet, guys, based off the NAM, pushing 70 to 80 knots. Okay, that's only about 6,000 feet above our heads. And winds, going 85, 90, 95 miles per hour. Okay, so when you have winds going that fast, just several thousand feet above our heads, I mean, you're darn sure it's going to mix to the surface and you're going to have windy conditions. So the damaging wind threat's going to be high because of that, because the prolific wind profile, and it's going to be spinning this updraft because you got winds coming from one direction in one section of the atmosphere. And then the upper levels, you got winds coming from another direction. It's not a massive change, but it's enough to spin these updrafts and create tornadic development. So the severe weather is not just going to be bad Thursday, but it's going to be bad Thursday night too. It's going to diminish somewhat, but you're still going to have an ongoing severe weather threat Thursday night across Louisiana, Mississippi. I think the discrete mode is probably going to be in eastern Texas, maybe sections of western Arkansas and northwest around Shreveport, Louisiana, northwest Louisiana. But look at this moist sector. We already know this. This is already going to build in tomorrow. Dew points are going to rise. I mean, it's already here. I mean, we already know this. We're getting the Thursday about midday, dew points in the 70s down near Houston. This in the upper 60s as far north as southeast Oklahoma. You got a dew point that's there's a tight boundary right in here, but this boundary will erode and build in. And then, look at these dew points pushing 70 for Little Rock. And then here comes this collapsing air mass behind this low pressure with this cold front trailing. But man, look at the massive differences between atmospheres here. You got dew points in the single digits to teens back here in central Texas, but in eastern Texas, you got dew points in the 60s and 70s. So this is a massive, not a very small, but a massive moist sector ahead of this collapsing air mass that moves in response to this moving low pressure moving to the northwest. So adequate low-level moisture in place. That will not be a problem at all for these severe weather. In response, I know this is surface cape for you folks that know a lot about the weather. I know that's not the best thing to look at, but I'm looking at the weather bell, and they don't have the mixed layer cape here. And pivotal weather it can sometimes be a little irritating to play with, but tomorrow pivotal weather will be the model of choice once we're in range of these HRRR models and things. But I'm showing you this. This is cape. Storm fuel at the surface. So it's not always the best thing to look at, but it still shows us where the storm energy will be, just in the lower levels. But here we go. We're getting into Thursday midday. I mean, you already got cape values at the mixed layers, probably 1,000 to 1,400 joules per kilogram. This is fuel. Remember, when you have all these other dynamics in place, like the wind profiles, the low-level moisture, when you already have those, like in the upper categories of ingredients needed for severe weather, basically they're maxed out on their own category. You throw in 750, 1,200, 1,400 joules per kilogram of cape. Sorry, Cam is my father-in-law's dog, so that's the name of his dog. But I don't know why I thought about that. But of cape, that is becoming an issue. You don't have to throw a lot of cape into all these other ingredients that you already have in place. You don't have to throw a lot at all. But once you start to get over 1,000 joules per kilogram, which we will have this in response to all this deep moisture in place, this becomes an erupting air mass, just an air mass like a ticking time bomb, just ready to fire off supercells. So this will continue. It'll try to max out sometime for Louisiana and Arkansas, probably as the sun goes down. This might become more of a nighttime threat for areas of Arkansas getting into Mississippi and further eastern areas of Louisiana. And then this moves on ahead. But yeah, so, the significant tornado perimeter, guys, do not look at these numbers and think, oh, there's a 10 out of 10 chance there's going to be a tornado. Look at these higher numbers and just think in your head, okay, this is the area that has maybe the highest chance to see a tornado. It's what we call the STP, significant tornado perimeter. A lot of times this is overdone, but it does a great job of kind of reflecting where the highest tornado threat can be. You already got values hitting 3 or 4 out of 10 up here in northeast Texas, areas of southwest Arkansas, southeast Oklahoma, northern Louisiana. But look, as we're getting into, around 5 p.m., daylight still in play here. You got parameters numbers reaching 5, 6, and these purples, I mean, you're pushing 8. And then look as we're getting, look at this. Look as we're getting into around 9 p.m. here in Arkansas, northern Louisiana. It's almost maxed out, 10 out of 10. So, it might be the worst right after the sun goes down. We'll have to see how this trough ejects that short wave to the north that's going to promote all the ingredients right here. But this continues. I mean, we're getting into midnight at this point, Thursday night, 1 a.m., and this significant threat of tornadoes continues after the sun goes down Thursday night. So how this could potentially unfold, we're not sure. But, here's the latest NAM. It immediately erupts supercells right over eastern Oklahoma. But, it doesn't show much in the way of supercell development for, Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening. But ignore that for now, because I can almost guarantee you as we get into the HRRR model range, you're going to have supercells showing up in this area right in here. But one thing that is absolutely guaranteed is we're going to have a dangerous squall line associated for the tail of this low pressure. Okay, I'm not going to compare it to what happened in Oklahoma the other night. No. But this will be a damaging wind threat, even outside of any kind of supercells that do form. So let's talk a little bit about Friday. Not a little bit, but a good bit. Okay, we're starting this off. This is around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, Central Time still. You already have, a roaring 70, 75 knot low-level jet in areas riding through the areas in the Mid-South, the Delta. And as we're getting into Friday morning, you'll notice waking up in Atlanta, Birmingham, that the winds are absolutely whipping. You'll look up in the atmosphere and you'll see the clouds going about 1,000 miles per hour. This is in response to a deepening low pressure still and a roaring low-level jet several thousand feet above our heads at the surface. This moves in, same kind of deal as Thursday. Brings a maxed out kinetic atmosphere, meaning wind profiles are going to be extremely high. The favorable wind pattern is going to be extremely high. I mean, we'll stop this about Friday midday. You got 65, 75 knot low-level jet moving over portions of Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, even for you folks up in Kentucky, where, you know, maybe there won't be enough thermodynamics for a significant severe weather threat. Another high wind event for you folks is likely. High wind warnings again. You guys have, up here in Ohio Valley, the Mid-South, Kentucky, you guys have had a lot of windstorms over the last few weeks for sure. But as we're getting, I would say until about Friday afternoon, if I had to make a call right now based off model guidance, I would favor eastern Alabama and western Georgia, with Atlanta potentially being right in the crosshairs. But, you know, I would favor somewhere in this region right here in Alabama and Georgia, where the best thermodynamics is, but where you still have a roaring 60, 70 knot low-level jet ahead. Dew points are probably in the 60s to close to the low 70s. And look at the timing of the day, 21Z. That's around, that's around 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, daytime heating. So it all just depends on how progressive this trough ejection is. You know, does it eject a little bit slower? That would probably back the severe weather threat up a little bit further to the west. Does it eject faster? That would move it up a little bit east. It's tough to figure out. But as we're getting into my folks here in the Carolinas, South Carolina, I really think for South Carolina, if I was to time it right now, I think we're going to have a damaging line of storms, damaging wind threat that moves in Friday night. So I would plan accordingly to any of your kind of Friday night activities, but I think we could be dealing with a nasty line of storms moving through areas of eastern Georgia, South Carolina, as this low-level jet's moving ahead, and extremely windy Friday night. You'll notice the winds will pick up Friday morning. Yeah, low-level moisture ahead of this. This will build well, pushing a 70-degree dew point sometime Friday morning in Birmingham, up to Nashville, same thing, all the way up in the southern sections of Kentucky. Dew points getting into the low 60s. Cold front moves through. Severe weather threat drops. But look right here, like I said, 4 or 5 p.m., right down here in areas of southeastern Alabama, western Georgia. If any supercells get going in this region, they are going to have all the ingredients in the world to get going. Of course, you always have a fail mode that gets much deeper into things, but you are certainly going to have dynamics that are going to support some nasty severe weather. But you know, dew points are going to rise very high, all the way up into the upper 60s, maybe even low 70s in certain areas ahead of this line. We'll stop this around 9 p.m. Eastern time. And like I said, there's going to be a pretty stout line of storms, I think, moving to this area. And you could have some discrete cells later in the evening. Normally around this time of the year, I doubt it, but it's possible. And you can have a tornado threat along this line too. Cape values, same thing, surface-based Cape. I know, guys, I know. But it shows the idea of when the Cape really maximizes, and there it is. In eastern Alabama, western Georgia, around Atlanta, you got Cape values that get over 1,000 joules per kilogram in this region, along a thin line, and then not as high as it gets maybe into the Carolinas. But I really think right now, this area right here in Alabama and Georgia might be the highest threat level. But listen, I mean, you're going to get nasty weather in Mississippi. I think Mississippi will be a state where the severe weather moves in overnight, Thursday night. But we'll see what happens, guys. Let's talk about the winter storm this. So I'm pulling for you folks in Chicago, surrounding regions. I think the most snow you've gotten is 3 to 4 inches. Let's take a look at the European for this winter storm, okay? Latest one, 18Z. Here comes the low pressure, moving up. Stout low pressure, 982 millibar low. A lot of moisture. And one thing I have not showed you guys is there's going to be a flooding threat in Arkansas also. And areas right into here. A ton of moisture. You guys have gotten hit continuously over the last several weeks with heavy rain and even some winter weather. But we'll stop it here. Friday about midday, you got backside rain turning to snow. Heavy snow at this for Kansas City, the entire western and northwestern sections of Missouri, southeast Iowa is getting a hefty thumping of back-end snow. This would be heavy, wet snow. And look at this little upper level low moving through this little cold pocket of loft. It's still snowing in Chicago Friday afternoon, but with the low pressure track, you guys are flirting with rain and snow right on Chicago here. The latest European keeps you guys almost all wet snow. Milwaukee, for my folks here in southern Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, maybe even up to Green Bay, but Milwaukee, this could be a big snow for you. Eastern Iowa, big snow for you guys. It could start out as snow for southern Michigan, but it's probably going to turn to rain, and this could be a big snowstorm based off the Euro for central and northern areas of Michigan. And this moves on through. GFS. What does the GFS show? This will make some areas a little bit further south a little bit happier, especially Chicago. Here it comes, low pressure moving in. We'll stop this Friday midday. It's starting to snow in Chicago, snowing back in Missouri more, snowing a little bit further south. It's getting really close to St. Louis. If this is right, it would probably switch to snow in St. Louis maybe for a period of time. But this puts it solid all snow for Chicago, northern and western areas of Illinois, northern Indiana. Southern Michigan gets an all-out winter storm. More snow for you folks. Euro has it changing to rain as we're getting into Friday afternoon and evening. This will be all snow for southern Michigan. And even northern Indiana. Ohio, I think 95% of the state's going to see nothing but rain. But this continues to move through, and that's it. As far as snowfalls for this section of the country, this is the European ensemble, going for around 5 inches in Chicago, Milwaukee around 8. It likes southeast Iowa with widespread 6 to 8 inch snowfall totals. It likes a few inches of snow in Kansas City. Even back here in Kansas, a good chunk of Kansas right here, northeast Kansas and northern Kansas, eastern Kansas. We got a few inches of snow. Northern Missouri, a nice little small-scale snowstorm. The entire northern half of Illinois, snow. And then this has a big hit for basically the entire state, especially the northern half of Michigan. Okay? The European ensemble, what does this show? The corridor of snow is much smaller, but it's heavier. Wants to drop 11 inches of snow in Chicago. It's by far will be your biggest snowstorm of the year. Still gives you about a half a foot. About 4 to 5 inches of snow, I would say, more so in Milwaukee. A nice corridor of snow in northern, and for winter weather fans, I'll say nice for winter weather fans. For northern, the northern half of Illinois, a 4 to as much as 8 inch snowfall event, and then north, losing some steam, guys, getting tired. And then for northeast areas of Missouri, you guys could get a few inches of snow. For my folks in the northeast wondering about this, it's weird system for sure. Euro only goes 90 hours out, but this starts to move into Pennsylvania as early as Friday evening and moves into New York State, pretty much has the entire state of New York covered as we're getting into about midnight Friday night. This is an icy mixture here in northern and northeast sections of Pennsylvania, but starting off as all snow for areas like Buffalo, southern New England, but the coastal regions that got some good snow, overnight last night into this morning. New York City, this looks like all rain. To me, it does. Interior Northeast, though, this is going to be another big winter storm for you guys. GFS, how's the GFS look for you folks? It looks much more much more wintry. Okay. Same thing. It starts off as more snow for Pennsylvania and has a little bit of ice as far south as Maryland. Friday about midday. This will be a big winter storm, a big mixed bag of precipitation for Pennsylvania. Freezing rain, sleet, heavy snow. Another winter storm for Buffalo. You guys have been hit many times this winter already. Starts off as even winter weather in New York City. Snow, sleet mixture, even Long Island. And then as we're getting into a Friday evening, big heavy thumping of snow for Boston and the entire state of Massachusetts. This would be a big raging sleet storm if this is correct. Overnight Friday into Saturday morning for Connecticut, Rhode Island. This orange is sleet, guys, and will remain a sleet storm throughout the duration of the event, and it might change to some back-end snow Saturday morning, but we got to figure this one out. This is a tricky one just because the Northeast will be dealing with more so frozen precipitation. But you look at the blend of all models from this, and this is from what's going to happen over the next couple days and what's happening right now. Here comes this storm right here. So you're going to add several inches of snow in the interior Northeast, going for around 3 to 4 inches of snow in Boston. Not much of anything in New York City. Few inches of snow in northern Pennsylvania, going for around 4 to 5 inches in Buffalo. Binghamton, 4 to 5 inches. But look at this ice. Okay, this is some worrisome ice right here in Pennsylvania. So freezing rain is going to be a deal, and then someone's going to get widespread accumulating sleet also, which doesn't really show up well on these maps at all. But that's all I got, guys. I said I would have this video uploaded by 8 p.m., but I got 2.5 minutes for this to upload, and that's not going to happen. So hopefully it'll get to you around 8:50 or so. Thank y'all for everything. God bless all y'all. Thank you for the patience, and you guys have a great rest of your night.